Welcome to the Steam Summer Sale, running now through July 11th. Here are some of my best strategy sim and city deals, as well as some of the new deep discounts. Let's take a look. And my first recommendation is a quickie but a goodie just like me. It's Civ 5 at 90% off. It is uniquely on special. It rarely receives a discount during a Steam sale. And also, if you're interested, the classics in the franchise are here and they are cheap. In this sponsored section, I'm highlighting Republic of Pirates, which is 10% off, bringing it down to around $20 US. It's a pirate-themed city builder, an RTS game set during the golden age of piracy, where you start with a remote outpost, developing it into a sprawling empire of industry and resource production. Customizing your fleet, of course, along the way, the ships fight in real time, an RTS combat game, where you'll fight rival pirate factions as well as merchants. The goal, to liberate islands, expand your influence, and navigate some tricky diplomatic relationships with powerful trading nations. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the game, I've already created a beginner's guide in collaboration with the wonderful people behind it. So you can check that out using my link below. Now let's get back to the video. And next up, it's Age of Wonders 4. 30% off, bringing it down to around $34 US. Believe it or not, this is the best discount we've seen for the game, which is now around 1 year old. I've covered it extensively on the channel, so if you're a regular viewer, you will have heard about it before. Let me give it a quick overview as well as some DLC recommendations. It's a 4X game, it's a fantasy game. It's received a lot of good updates throughout the year for free, as well as the DLC. It's one of my favorite games that launched last year, to be honest. I think it's a really solid 4X game. Slightly smaller in scale, perhaps, than others that you might be used to, but from the city management through to the leader creation, customization, I think it's a really fun game. In terms of the DLC, you have 4 options available now, 2 smaller packs, including Dragon Dawn, which is probably my favorite one because you have access to the dragon leaders. Although it's important to note that the Empires and Ashes DLC, one of the more expensive ones, adds a unique victory condition. All of them include things like aesthetic forms, new spells through tomes of magic. My general recommendation would be to grab the one that you like the form around. Obviously, if you can stretch them all, that would be great, but they are not strictly necessary. Next up, it's Manor Lords, another fairly new game, still in early access in fact, at 25% off. Brings it down to around $30 US. As a gentle reminder, regional pricing will always vary a little bit, but I'll try and give it to you in US dollars. Manor Lords is a medieval strategy game, obviously, and it's really focused around 3 core elements. One being the city building, the settlement building. The second being its tactical battles, its fights, and largely the economy, resource production, and storage, all of that good stuff. And I think it does all 3 elements very well. It's still in early access, some of them need some more expansion, more replayability to be added, but it is beautiful. It's a really nicely, historically crafted world as well. Much attention to detail. I really like this game, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it develops further. Moving on to some of those special discounts, starting with Sid Meier's Civilization 6, 95% off. I think this might very well be a record, certainly first equal, except for when it's been given away for free, of course. At $3, it's literally chump change behind the couch. Why? Because of this. Civilization 7 is coming, so if you haven't picked up Civ 6 yet, turn-based, of course, historical strategy game, now might be the time to pick up what is probably the most popularly played 4X game still to this day. There's a lot of anticipation around Civ 7's reveal in August, and Civ 6 is therefore an easy pickup. However, it's not the only special mega discount in this sale. To quickly mention some more of these deep discounts, you've got Frostpunk, which also has a sequel coming, 90% off. Another great game, favorite of mine, Prison Architect, 90% off, get out of town. As well as Humankind, at again, 90% off. If you've been a fairly regular viewer of the channel, this game won't be new to you. But in the same light of Civilization 6, in fact, very similarly, 4X, historical strategy, turn-based, but obviously with some key differences around fame and score, around changing cultures as you move through the different eras of the game, and its tactical combat system, a system that I particularly enjoy. One of my favorite elements of Humankind is its combat. It's one of the few games that can actually tempt me to want to play and want to fight manual combat. So kudos to it for that. It is very cheap these days, like almost just as cheap as Civ 6. Read into that what you will. At about $5 US, it's a very easy pickup and an easy recommend, and this rounds out my look at the deep discounts. If you've had enough of hearing me talk about historical strategy, how about some space? 4X. It's Galactic Civilizations 4 Supernova Edition. GalCiv 4 is one of my favorite Space 4X strategy games. I like it for a lot of reasons. The simulation itself is very deep and very detailed, and this is going to sound a little bit backwards, but somehow the game manages to make it all quite palatable, fairly easy to pick up, and this is acknowledging its continued updates again and again and again. Lots of content rolls out for this game. I'm of course here just talking about the base game, but if you really want to delve into what is, in my opinion, one of the best 4X space strategy games, there's a lot of DLC to unpack as well. A lot of it isn't on special, and I don't focus on things obviously that aren't discounted, so in general I'd recommend starting with the base game, seeing how you feel, and then delving in a little bit further once you've got the hang of it. Speaking of getting the hang of it, next up it's Victoria 3 at 50% off. This is, again, one of the better discounts that we've seen for Victoria 3. Of course, it's not quite at that Hearts of Iron 4, Stellaris level, more great sort of grand strategy games that are obviously discounted in this sale, but 50% off, not bad. What's also not bad is the TLC that Victoria 3 has received, that tender love and care over the last year. Most of the free updates have been handled really well, generally speaking, adding not just kind of glossy overview cosmetic stuff, but really deep gameplay mechanics. And of course, with the latest Sphere of Influence DLC, the game continues to grow and expand. It's made significant improvements on the military front, as well as the diplomatic front, and generally things are slightly easier to manage. I'd recommend revisiting Victoria 3 if you haven't in a while. Next up, slightly different simulation game Dredge, developed right here in my homeland of New Zealand. Dredge has overwhelmingly positive reviews for very good reason. It's a single-player game. It's a fishing adventure game, which you might not have thought you'd see in this video, but trust me, it's very fun. You'll take control of the ship itself, head out into what is undoubtedly always going to be quite a dangerous, sometimes dark journey, filled with loads of secrets and mysteries, and your goal is to collect a catch and then sell that catch, upgrading your boat and obviously allowing you to access even more of the very mysterious world. It's a super fun game. As you can see by the look of it, it also has quite a unique appeal, quite a unique aesthetic to it. I'd highly recommend you check it out. It's only about $17 US, fairly cheap pickup. Next, another new game, Workers and Resources Soviet Republic at 35% off, about $26 US. This bad boy just came out of early access, in fact, so not new, but this version, the 1.0 version, absolutely is. This is a fairly hardcore city builder economic management game. Inside of a fully simulated global economy, believe it or not, you will operate a planned economy. A Soviet-style planned economy where you are essentially in charge of a very impoverished, perhaps unnamed, Eastern European country. A Soviet republic. Very fun theming here, and again, the devil is in the detail. This game's simulation is impressive. If you're looking for something with a lot of detail behind its simulation, and not just a pretty face to look at, this might just be the city builder for you. It's, again, a bit different, a bit unique. I personally love the historical theme too, so I'm a bit of a sucker for it. Moving along and back to the depths of the ocean, but with a different twist. This is Dave the Diver. At 30% off, Dave the Diver is around $13 US. Again, it's another overwhelmingly positively reviewed simulation game, this time stretching more into the adventure aspect too. You are Dave, and your game is kind of split between two different worlds, if you will, your life. One part of it, you are controlling Dave down in the depths of the ocean, slowly getting better equipment, exploring new areas, finding new things, people, mysteries, whatever it may be, to fight, and ultimately bring back to your sushi restaurant. Because by night, it's time to sell some sushi, and drinks, and everything else that goes along with it. The story that's in and around this, again, quite unique looking game, but of course in a slightly more pixelated style, is pretty neat. Honestly, it does sort of pull you in. And then when you're back here having to manage the sushi restaurant, it's such a change of pace and says quite a nostalgic feel to me somehow. It's an easy recommend. And aside from a couple of bonuses at the end, the real-time tactics entry, not XCOM 2 this time, is Last Train Home at 34% off. It brings it down to around $28 US. This, like I say, is a real-time tactics, historical strategy game. What do? Well, you have an armoured train and a crew aboard it, a crew that can be divided into different squads. These people have very real needs as well, resource needs, personal needs, so on and so forth. And you can deploy them at any time, not just when your ship is stuck, but whenever really you're travelling across. You can stop your ship, go out, get supplies, and the game is fundamentally also driven by quite a strong story element, mission by mission, making your way home across the great expanse of Russia, often fighting your way across, often relying on stealth too. It's a fun tactics game, and it rounds out my list. Did I forget your favourite game? Did I not have unlimited time to mention every deal? Anno 1800, for example, at 80% off, another quick, easy recommendation. Or perhaps Crusader Kings 3 is more your vibe at 60% off. It's moving its way towards some of those truly juicier discount levels, and probably an easy pick. Do let me know the damage to your wallet and the things that I might have missed in the comments section down below. It's usually a hive mind for some pretty great deal hunting activity. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.